So, as I said, this is our third call in four. And it's been such a pleasure to be with you and to have your feedback and to have your energy and insights on the calls to help me create my second book. And also, during this time, I've been sharing insights to help you with creating your own mindset shifts and practical strategies to be able to pursue your own passionate project right now and create your own desired results. Our main focus has been on income generation and how do we stay calm and maintain joy before breakthroughs happen, or when you're having dips in your income. How do you maintain your sense of calm and expectation that good things are coming to you before you see changes and results in your external environment? So let me summarize for you what we focused on during the first calls and then what we're going to focus on today. So call number one, we focused on identifying the problem. So what is it that's causing stress and keeping you up at night? Usually it poses itself as something you see or don't see in your external world, but often it is a thought that is at the root of everything that creates the undesired feeling and then the result. So we explored that on call number one. And then call number two was all about defining the consequences of what you'll face if you keep walking down that old path of the status quo. You keep thinking the same thought. You keep operating with the same knowledge, wisdom, business practices that worked for you before, which doesn't create the desired result. And then how to start changing your internal world from the inside out, which we explored the inside out thought reprogramming process that I use. And today we're going to be talking about how asking better questions produces much more desirable results in your professional life and in your emotional state. So, as I was preparing for our call today, I was thinking about the steps that I've walked through in that season of my business and my personal life. And for those of you who would like to, I wanted to ask if there was someone who could take notes in the chat of this so that we can outline the steps. Is there anyone who would be willing to do that? Sue, that'd be great. Okay, so step number one is to notice. So we covered that in call number one. Notice summarizes we're noticing the thought, or we're actually noticing that we're aware of a problem that's causing undesirable results. And when I was in that season of life, first of all, I was in a season of complete ignorance. I didn't even know what my problem was. So the first step is to notice. And in order for me to notice what was causing my problem and the root of the problem, especially because you don't want to just put a band-aid solution over your problem and then have it arise again and again, frustratingly in your life, right? I needed external feedback from a coach that I'd hired at the time to help me see that what I was believing was not true. And you don't always need an objective person mirroring back to you what truth actually is and where you're causing yourself to stumble. But for me, that was a powerful and necessary component, was that objective person to help me notice what I wasn't able to notice on my own. And my friends, I've been doing this for over a decade, and it was hard for me to notice my own for myself. So first step is notice, Sue. Second step is consequences. We got more clear last week, as clear as you can get in 1 hour, about the consequences that you'll face if you don't change your thinking, versus if you do change your thinking and then align your behavior to support that new thought, to embody the person who you desire to become with the results you desire, that requires you to be motivated to even make the necessary changes, right? So I see you thinking hard rate, consequences. Consequences, if I didn't change my thinking back then, were to wait for something to happen so that I could make the money I wanted to make. For example, one of the thoughts I was thinking was, people don't want to buy from me right now. And so the consequences of continuing to think that thought and believe it to be true meant I had to keep waiting until the seasons changed in order for people to be ready to buy from me, according to my perspective. And so we got clear on what are the consequences of me continuing down this path versus changing the way I'm perceiving my situation, believing something new about myself, believing something up leveled about money, changing my relationship with money, and therefore experiencing a desirable consequence for my new behavior. So the second step, Sue, is consequences. If we don't get clear and look at, and it's uncomfortable to identify and look at the consequences, we won't be motivated to change. Third step is responsibility. Once we know and then we're aware of the consequences, we need to take informed action. But before we can take informed action, we need to take responsibility for our lives. Responsibility for how we think, for how we feel, for how we spend our time, for who we surround ourselves with, for the knowledge and information that we digest spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationally. That's up to us. And we're not alone in this process, but we do play a role. So when we take responsibility for what we think and how we act, we feel much more solid inside because we have some sense of control again. Whereas in like a wilderness season or seasons of the unknown, like I've been talking about over these calls, I felt really shaky and like I was lost and I didn't have direction. But when you realize how much power you have and you take responsibility, you can turn things around. Fourth step is embodiment, Sue. When we embody our new belief, we shorten the amount of time that it takes to create the desired result. And for me, that was financial security, that was financial freedom, that was renewed purpose, that was let's get my joy back again. That was I want to feel energized and lit up and sparkly again. I want to feel connected with people again. In order for me to feel those feelings and take control of my emotional state and take control of my bank account, I needed to embody the person that I needed to be in order to create that outcome. Makes sense, right? The last step is actualization. So, embodiment is more of an inside out creation process where we drill down to, well, what would I be thinking? What would she or he, this version of me, be focused on right now? What would I prioritize in my day? And how can I have both? Because often we think very limited about what we can accomplish and think that we have to sacrifice one thing that we value for another thing that we value, like play or money, rest or income generation, family time or scaling my business. We're going to get into more of your analyzing your relationship with money later on in this call. But for now, realize that in that last step of actualization, you are now developing the behaviors and that accompany the thought life. So you're bringing yourself into alignment with this new version, this whole version, or this next level version, however you want to describe yourself, so that you can receive the results you want. And it becomes more effortless and lighter type of work than trying to push to make something happen, because you're more aligning yourself to receive it. So in my scenario, let's take a personal look. Here's some of the money beliefs, and I haven't captured them all. That's what the book's for. That I was thinking that held me back. And some that I've experienced also earlier in my business, in the early years of my business, that held me back. I have to be available to my clients 24/7. Otherwise, they won't be happy and they'll leave me. That created a lot of problems. I wasn't able to be present with my family. I wasn't able to really have boundaries around my time. Making money is hard. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun, the results that will create. I'm not good at making money. That's one that I believed before. You can be spiritual, but you can't be wealthy at the same time. You can't be spiritual and wealthy at the same time. Somehow I believed that those two couldn't mix, couldn't coincide. There's something bad about making good money, possessing a healthy income, or an abundant income. Something bad about it, something that I should feel guilty about. So you can either have time for play or rest, or you can make good money, but you can't have both. Money comes and goes. It's hard to maintain a consistent income, though. When I achieve a professional level of success, this is one of my clients' beliefs, then something bad's bound to happen. Make money before you spend money. Oh, my friends, that's a doozy. That held me back for a long time. We don't always make money before we have to spend money. Now I believe it's often wise to spend money on my business and my professional development, and it always pays off. It's unreasonable and unwise to spend money before you make it. So those are just some of the limiting beliefs that negatively impacted my relationship with money and negatively impacted my outcome. So let me just hear in short what you think those results may have, what results I created unknowingly by having some of those beliefs. What do you think may have happened for me? Which one popped for you? Or do you share one?
Well, I guess if you don't value yourself, then people they'll tend to agree. Like if you kind of say, you wouldn't want to hire me, would you? You don't want to lease space from me, do you? Yeah, I'll do a deal. I'll only charge you $10, and it just doesn't carry up. People go, wow, why would I? I don't see the value there. They don't think they're getting value because you don't have the value of yourself.
Mm-hmm. So there's worthiness behind that belief, like a lack of worthiness behind that belief.
Yeah, got to believe it yourself, or no one else really usually won't.
Mm-hmm. What's popping for you, Ray or Irina?
Well,
quite a few of those. I was going to say quite a few of those resonate. I've had those thoughts, and honestly, I've gotten over them and worked past them with you. So I recognize them, and I look at them and I smile and I go, yes, I remember that. And I remember mentally dancing around that and figuring out how to get past it. Thankfully with guidance. Funny enough, I've already helped somebody else in exactly the same way. So
great.
That's one of those. It's easier to recognize it now that I've got that glass shift. I've adjusted how I see those things, and I absolutely agree with Sue. It's applicable to any expertise. Is when you value yourself, people start to perceive the value in it, right? And that has to do with human nature, but it's like dancing around human nature is the job and the life we live. So I will say that something you said just prior to this, and I apologize for diverging from what you're asking, but you said about visualizing what does that person look like that is going on the path of actively pursuing that hit me pretty solidly. So thank you.
Awesome. And it's fun because when you do the work necessary to visualize who that version of you is, how he thinks, how he is acting, what he's prioritizing, and what he will no longer entertain in his mental state up here, and what he's responsible for, all those components of the future you literally do a time warp. You bring him into being sooner, and therefore your results sooner, so you save so much time. Okay, I think that Louis is joining us too. Thanks for sharing, Ray. Anyone else want to share briefly about any money beliefs that you think maybe are getting in your way, or ones that you maybe you shared with me, or any insight around the process that I've shared with you, the noticing, the consequences, the responsibility, the embodiment, and then the actualization?
I'll share something, Amy.
Sure. Hi, Mike.
I've lived under, for many years, I lived under a lack of self-confidence in my own ability, just because of being diagnosed with a learning disability in school, struggling in the workplace for many years and all that, and finding my own value. It wasn't until in the last few years when I started to heal from a lot of the trauma that I faced in school, which I didn't realize contributed to it, that I realized how valuable I really was to the workplace. I always felt I was expendable. I always felt like I had nothing to offer to people, just because I was under a lens of rejection. And as I've been writing my book here on dealing with rejection in our life, I've realized in my own life how when we live under a lens of rejection, we see through that lens all the time of how we associate our worldviews. And when we see through that lens, we don't see clearly, authentically ourselves or others. And we always judge people through it, and we judge our actions and by our intentions, and we judge others by their actions. And because we have so been used to seeing that way through the world, that lens, it's a cracked lens. It's not a clear lens. And the more I've healed, the more I've been able to realize, hey, people actually like me. People want to be around me. People value what I carry. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. One year I got invited to a Thanksgiving meal with a mutual friend of ours, Amy, our mutual friend, and I had a great chat with them, and they've known me for 20 plus years, but we over sporadically. And when I saw them and we hung out, it was like no time had passed at all. And they said, you're different now. Like, you've come into this whole new confidence of who you are. Because I recognized that I didn't value myself, and that because I didn't value my own ability to bring what I internally believed that I didn't value myself. So I would never take the risk. I would never take the opportunities. And because I didn't value that, my own self-worth, others could devalue my self-worth. But when I say, hey, I value myself enough that you won't treat me this way, people notice that. And you're going to put up protective boundaries, of healthy boundaries, not fear boundaries, but healthy boundaries. Just you tell people how to treat them. You tell people how to respond to you. And if you put up boundaries, healthy boundaries, that is, then people will not get the opportunity to mistreat you.
It sounds like your awareness and the wisdom from your experience is really exploding right now as you write your book, and as you personally heal and become more whole.
Yeah, and the first book did that too, but I realized that's where the first book really came into, because I had gone through a lot of professional counseling from a spiritual perspective that helped me realize, hey, you have something to offer, Mike. You don't believe how good you really are of a person to offer what you have.
Well, I'm celebrating your growth, and I'm celebrating your renewal, and I can feel it. It's so exciting. So just to fill you in, Louis, we have been talking about money beliefs and old money stories. And you'll see in the chat the process that I went through, and I'm encouraging all of you to go through. Oh, I guess Ray had to hop off. That thankfully Sue's been documenting for us. And I would recommend going back and watching the first 20 minutes. Oh, that's okay. I'd recommend going back and watching the replay in the Facebook group. And I'll do my best to send it out over email so that you can hear more about the steps. So as I walked through this process of noticing, getting honest with myself about the consequences I would face if I kept walking down that road of defeat and hopelessness and self-doubt, et cetera, et cetera. Ugh. And then I started taking responsibility. One step that is crucial to my own process, that is often something that clients that I work with are craving, that I want to share with you, is where I'm going to share with you the step, but I'm also going to share with you the result that you get to enjoy, and the just the heart filling and life expanding possibilities and opportunities that get to be yours when you stop trying to control your life and you start trusting more. And this is the spiritual side. So I want to share with you part of my strategy that will be in the book. And then I'm going to open up for questions around today's topic, and also feedback and details that you think you would really appreciate me including in the book. So as I told you in the earlier calls, I was not even aware I was doing this, but at the beginning of that darker, difficult season in my life and business, I didn't know that I was leaning on my own understanding to create the income that I wanted at that time, and the meaning and the joy back in my life that I wanted. I didn't realize that I was trying to make things go according to my plan. And if any of you can relate, I think some of you can relate, that feels really hard and rigid, and like it takes a lot of effort. When I say hard and rigid, it just means every day when you wake up, if you've experienced this or you have a personality like mine and you like to be independent and in control, it doesn't make life easy. It actually makes work grueling at times, and you stop listening to your body's needs, and you stop listening to your relational needs, and you stop having the time that you want to pursue activities and priorities that refresh you. Things just become heavy. So this is key. This is a key component for me as a spiritual business leader that will help you if you want to feel peaceful, joyful, and you want to build business from your heart, from your gut, and not always listening to the advice of your rational brain and thinking that you're the be all and end all. Hello, ego, right? So when I started opening up to, hey, maybe my plan isn't the best plan. Maybe I don't have all the answers, ideas, or insights that I need to move forward with. Maybe there's greater knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that I could have access to right now. Of course, there is for me and for you at all times, every day of your life. If we would stop and realize that we're not the highest, most important thing in the world. with the most knowledge, just because we've lived this short period of life so far. When I started leaning on God's understanding and perspective and listening in for insight, first that took humility. Okay, I don't have everything that I need right now. I actually do feel stuck and I need more insight. And what I'm doing right now, as far as moving my business forward, isn't working. So I better be open to being a continual lifelong learner. Did I write it down here? I want to make sure I did. Yes, I did. So when I started listening and trusting or asking for help from God, and for you, that might not be God, that might be asking for help in a general sense, because you believe something is out there greater than yourself, and you're willing to seek more insight than what you have. It might be that you ask for help from others. It might be that you get in touch with your gut, with your intuition. Some people do this through meditation, but they don't include a specific higher power. It's more of a broad thing. But you could, every time I say God, you could replace that with the word of like, what would my heart say? Or what would my gut say? So that you get more in tune with all parts of who you are. And you're not missing out on wisdom and insight that could be yours right now to give you more direction and clarity. So my steps looked like this. I got humble. I asked for more help. I listened in. I trusted that what I received was what I needed. And I'll tell you specifically what I received. And then I got into generous, service-focused action, focusing on other people's problems. How could I solve them? How could I be of service? And that brought purpose and meaning back into my life. That brought connections and community back into my life. And we need them. We need to be surrounded by others, right? And using our skill sets. It's an act of thankfulness when we're using our skill sets. It brought purpose, it brought community. And then I started making a bigger impact again. And we craved making an impact. Then came the influx of income. But even before the income came back into my business, I got my joy back. I got my peace back. I got my purpose back. What was even more powerful and meaningful for me out of that experience is my spiritual relationship grew and deepened, and I became even closer with God, so that I didn't feel like I was alone in my business. And I didn't feel like it was all up to me anymore. I worked through the inside out thought reprogramming process that I'll share in the book. And I now started believing that I always have support. I'm surrounded by love. I'm surrounded by an abundance of money. It's always accessible for me. All of my income generation activities will be successful. A completely different set of beliefs is what I adopted. So over a period of a summer that year, money came in ways that I wasn't even expecting it to come in. I got money from the government. I got money from book sales. So part of letting go of control and opening up to greater wisdom and trusting, and then taking action that you can take. Sometimes it feels like there's nothing you can do, that everything's out of your control, but you actually still have a lot of control, and you can align your business actions with that. What was I going to tell you? This is all so fresh. I'm so glad that you're with me. Side note, I'm going to step back a second, because this is me real time for the first time sharing my full story around this. So when we let go of control and we trust, we're basically saying, I'm holding this dream out here loosely now, instead of saying, the money has to come in this way. This is the best and only way. We're saying, no, I am willing and happy for the money to come in however it comes in. Even if it doesn't come in through my direct business activities, comes in a completely different form and path, I'm open for it. And I'm also not holding tightly to my agenda around my timeline. It has to happen quick. It has to happen perfectly with no mistakes. That's a belief that held me back for a long time and caused frustration and stress. Now I'm going to, over that summer, I released my need for the money to come when I thought it should come. And I believed that it was going to come at the perfect time, and that everything that I was doing, I was being supported and things were happening for me at the perfect time. So I'm saying now, I don't know what the perfect time is, but I know I'm supported, so I'm going to be okay. And I'm taking the actions that I know I can take, that I have control over. So it looked like purpose. This is for you again, Sue, if you don't mind. This was the spiritual part of my journey. Purpose, community, then came impact. Hopefully am I going too fast? And then income, but almost like a trampoline supporting all of that was, and more important was the spiritual connection that got developed in that time frame, the deeper spiritual connection. So if you want to develop that like I did and have your work be much lighter and more of like a flow to your business activities and less heavy, then take these steps. Remember to drop the ego and maybe choose a different thought that I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. It's actually okay to be dependent on something or someone, in my experience, greater. 2, ask for help. 3, listen in. 4, trust. Trust the responses and the direction that you get. It often feels uncomfortable because it's not what your rational brain says to do. Your rational brain that's operating from fear tells you you need to scramble. You need to make it happen fast. And it's all up to you. So trust and then take action. And the taking action for me at that point looked like getting my book out into the world and getting more visible. I was feeling like God was directing my heart to be visible, to teach, make offers, share the strategies from my book. And when I got into action with being visible, teaching, educating, making offers, money started flowing in. But like I said, that peace and that joy, thankfully, that needed to come. That needed to be my unshakable rock to catapult me towards the income, or vice versa, to magnetize the income to me. I'm not sure how it works. It's probably both things happening at the same time. So now I'd love to answer questions and offer coaching if you have questions. Thanks so much, Sue, for documenting that. That's really valuable. And see if there's a better question that you could ask yourself instead of a question that's not helping you progress right now and achieve the desired result that you want in your professional life, or maybe not helping you feel the way you want to feel inside. We could work on internal transformation or external transformation. They're both linked. Any questions? Feel free to unmute. Oh, yes, Louis. And please tell me how to pronounce your name.
I don't have a name anymore. It's just made up. No, Louis is fine. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it.
Sure. one of the things that were occurring to me when you were saying and when you were speaking is, I'm not someone who's used to being supported or helped. I've always been the helper, not the helpee, so to speak. And I guess when you're talking about holding it loosely and trusting the advice and asking for help, part of me thinks like, okay, so if we're talking about like right now, I'm seeking employment. I need this amount of money to cover my expenses each month. Would the request be, okay, so and so I need this amount of money to cover my expenses, tell me how to do it? Or would it be, hey, so and so I have these goals, how could you support me in this? Like, do you start from the money back, or do you go just from present to forward? Like, I'm trying to figure that out.
I didn't quite understand the last part. Do you start with money and go backwards, or start from the present and go forward? You could do both, Louis. You could here's some questions that I would ask. One was very eye-opening for me that I heard from someone else, and I use it often now, is how do you want to financially support me right now? So these are all questions I would ask God. I don't know your spiritual beliefs, but that can make many things clear. For example, ideas will come to mind, like income streams that you hadn't thought of. A second one that you could ask is, please show me who I should be contacting right now. And people might come to mind that you haven't thought of, or that you actually had meant to follow up with and have forgotten about. There's another one that came to mind. You could ask, which of my skills have been calling to be used that I haven't been listening to? So for example, sometimes, like not now because I'm using them, but sometimes in the past when I haven't been, especially actually over COVID, when I wasn't using my speaking skills as much, and definitely not in person. I want to teach often online and in person. I felt like I was drying up. So you could ask yourself, which of my skills are just crying out to be used that could bring in money right now? Another question, would you please show me a need that I keep seeing that's popping up in other people's lives that I could provide a solution for? And then you know the need, you know who you could reach out to, you can make a list, and then you can make an offer to them. That's really unique.
All great questions. I hadn't thought of that. I'm sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Another one, Louis, is could you show me how easy you want it to be for me to make that X income? If your brain is always thinking about, oh, that's going to take a lot of work, or that's going to take a lot of time, or that's going to take a lot of whatever to meet my basic needs, you wouldn't even be considering the question, how could it be easy to make more than my basic needs? How could it be even easier to make more than my basic needs than to just make enough? Who knows more about me in this area that could help me? So you started your question with, you're not being used to being supported and helped. I totally can relate. And I wanted to know if you had any other questions around that comment.
No, I think those are great questions. I never thought of them. I think the not being used to being helped, I think is just gonna have to be something that I have to just get over with. Like, you know, I mean, just like with my foot that I've been on crutches, I just got the cast off like 3 or 4 days ago. So thank you. So it's just a matter of people helping me in the grocery store, people help me open the door. At first I felt like, no, I can do it. They're like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, okay. And I in my head, I heard myself say, Louis, let them make a contribution to you. If they want to make a contribution, let them make a contribution. And just, you know, and like have the grace to accept it and just allow it to happen and just be in gratitude that it did. So, you
And
know,
so
that's
when Mike was talking about boundaries, can I say something very direct right now?
sure.
Okay.
To-
Because we're often unaware of this. Sometimes we have boundaries that keep the good out. Like the wall of China, I call them. It's like the wall of China in this area of your life sounds like a belief that would cause you to have that boundary there, keeps you safe from feeling the way you don't want to feel that would validate the belief. Okay, that was really complicated, but let me break it down for you. People who are takers, like there's something about being supported and helped that you don't like, and it's the belief around that you, and so if you have a boundary, it stops you from being one of those people. And
yeah.
you don't have to face the consequences of being a taker or being someone who's supported. And likely it could be something like I'm less valuable when I'm on the receiving end, or I'm not an equal. It's better to give. People who give are more important, or people who are the takers can't even take care of themselves. Like they're weak, or they're irresponsible, or they've messed things up or something like that, you know, that would stop you from feeling totally fine being taken care of. And sometimes it could be a belief that keeps that support out and love out and money out and all the good things. And sometimes it's just getting used to, or it's getting used to feeling that good. It's letting feeling that good from other people into our lives and allowing it. One of my coaches said, "Are you willing to try an experiment with me?" And he asked me to spend money in a way that made me feel uncomfortable. And he said, "So what you're doing right now is you're expanding your comfort zone to include those activities. And then you can ask yourself afterwards, did I like how that felt? Do I want to do it again?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I feel the emotion that keeps popping up when someone does something for me is guilt.
Mm.
I just feel guilty for having been helped, or you know, in it to what you're saying, I didn't realize I did have beliefs about takers and you know all these things that are, because if I don't take the help, then I don't have to feel the guilt, right? So,
Mm.
but then I should question, why do I feel such guilt to that degree, or where do those beliefs come from, and why did I make them mean what they mean? But
Can you write
um
that down for yourself? I think that would be really helpful to dig into a little bit deeper for yourself.
thank you, Amy. I appreciate all of that.
Yeah. And you know, if there's someone in your life who you could, even a complete stranger, you may never see them again. They may be your perfect person to ask this question. I suggest people do this in their family lives too, with their spouse or their children, to help them change their thinking and their actions. You could, when you're feeling that guilt, or somebody just offers to hold open the door for you, or do something nice for you, bring you food, help you out in some way, ask them, I'm trying to feel good and let this happen more often for me. Could you tell me how it makes you feel to help me? Or could you tell me, could you tell me how it makes you feel to help me? Because there's probably assumptions you have about that person too.
Yeah. There's always a little voice talking
Mhm,
about
mhm.
them.
Any other questions, Lewis?
No, thank you. And I like your comment about the comfort zone also and accepting it out.
Mhm,
Thank,
mhm. So
thank you
sometimes
very
it's
much.
not getting out of your comfort zone, it's letting more good into your comfort zone.
To the yeah, I like that
Mhm.
one. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sue.
Yeah, actually, I found that really interesting, that with Lewis there. I just not long ago finished reading a book called Givers and Takers, and it's like not every, I because I struggle a little bit with that in the past as well, and I got out of the book, like, not everyone who's giving is looking for a payback. They're not all giving and looking for something in return. They're not giving because they think you're weak. They're just and like in my business, I was kind of unaware of what I was doing, but if someone asks me a question or wants to pick my brain on something, I freely just give. I problem solve with them. I don't expect anything in return. But it's sort of out there, and then it just helps to create a community of people who give without expecting something in return. So I thought I'd add that in,
Thanks.
something to mull.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess so. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, Amy, when you were talking about how, you had this idea of how your income was going to come in and when it was going to come in. And I, obviously I had to let go of all that a long time ago, but I used to be, I used to have a full-time job where I got paid every, semi-monthly or every 2 weeks, and I didn't have to really even think about that to doing commercial real estate, and it's mostly commissions. I do consulting work as well. I have some other, I do Airbnb, I got some side gigs, but I used to have in my head that I had to have this script, so when I called somebody that I had never talked to before, I had to like really nail down in my head and maybe write notes about what I wanted to say and how the conversation was going to go. And then I don't listen well when I do that, because I've already got this idea in my head of how the conversation is going to go. So and I let go of that um as I became more comfortable. But even just like if I ever had to speak in front of a group, like a large group or something, I would feel like, okay, I gotta take some notes and get this right before I put it out there. And I, kind of stepped out of my comfort zone not long ago, just to, put my hand up or put myself out there and be ready for what comes at me. And it made me really, yeah, way more present to what's actually there, what's available for me, and what I could offer, be part of an actual interaction as opposed to something that I've already figured out.
So the switch from um, I need to have this figured out, I need to always have a structure, to practicing being out of your comfort zone, and then learning that you actually can be more connected and dynamic and engaged and create the results that you want by maybe trusting yourself more. And
And being open to what's out there, what's coming, what is actually out there. Get out of my head and get over there.
Mhm, mhm. Thanks for sharing. Did you have a specific question, Sue, or did you just want to share?
That was it. I just wanted that you resonated me when you talked about the, wanting to sort of have a plan and control things, and
Mm,
that sort of stuck out for me.
Thanks for sharing. Uh, 1 second here. So what I have a question for all of you about is, was there something I shared today that made you think, I want to learn more about that? That's an area where I don't feel like I'm fulfilled, or I feel stuck in that area, or I'd like to learn more about Amy's process around that, or her steps or strategies to help me in my situation. What would you want me to include in my book around that?
Maybe I,
Oh, okay.
go ahead, Arena, go ahead.
No, well, I have a question that was still, I still have a question. And what I would like to know more about is about the embodiment and how to embody and act, from this new part without being caught up in the old one. When I do that, like this new me that has the financial abundance, or the new me that has whatever it is. It's easy to do from that part, but how do I act right now if I don't have it yet? How is the embodiment? How can I do that? And how do I make sure that I'm not still working in the old parameters?
Right. So there's practical strategies, and then there's spiritual, mental work, the actions that I took and take. And what's funny is sometimes I think, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to do that on a regular basis. I don't need to keep that part of me strengthened. And then I've noticed how when we don't go to the spiritual gym, or we don't stay in touch with that side of ourselves, how we can slip back into behaving and thinking in ways that are counterproductive, like you're talking about, Irina. So thanks for asking the question. I think you've seen me and heard me talk about this. This board that I use and what I use it for. Have you?
No.
Oh, okay. So I have this massive board that I use for teaching and training sometimes. Depends on if I have PowerPoint presentation, or I want to be more hands-on like that. I like teaching from a board. But what I also took to using it for, especially during that season, was reframing my thought processes. This is a lot of work, but man, did it ever pay off. So right now it's blank, but usually it's full of new beliefs that I'm reprogramming and trading for old ones. And during that season, I literally was in thought reprogramming boot camp. It was a lot of work. And I would read them and say them over myself sometimes daily. So when you're talking about how do I embody her, how do you embody next level Irina in all the ways that you want to be and become? Part of it is that. Part of it is like, that's one way that you can do it is, of course, you need to backtrack. You need to find the problematic belief. You need to decide what the new one will be to align with the actions and the outcome you want. And then I write them on there. And when I say them over myself, and you've done this for yourself, but it's the actual, like you work on your own, Irina, I know, and you help clients transform theirs. So you know what process works for you in that way. But I also, I do my best to feel like my new self when I'm saying and thinking the new thoughts. So instead of, it doesn't work for me and it's empty when I'm just saying something aloud over myself and I don't really believe it. So even though I might not be convinced of it yet inside myself, I do my best to feel how it feels to believe it now. Mm-hmm. And some mornings when I went through that season, I would wake up, and this was not normal for me, and I would not be looking forward to the day. And I would not feel good about my current state. And I would just wake up in a negative place or a
Mhm.
frustrated place, And so right away, I would choose to combat that with, and what worked for me might not work for you, but um, like the right type of music. I would get up, I would put the right type of music for me on in my earbuds so I wasn't disturbing my family. And I would sometimes I would dance, sometimes I would go for a walk while listening to that. I also would say one powerful statement that's really worked for me when I would go for walks, and that's that I I would say it out loud over myself. I approve of the blank blank type of person I'm becoming. So that's a way of, and I think of you right now, Lewis. That's a way of you actively becoming the person who is happy to receive support. So I approve of becoming the person who receives support, not just gives it. Doesn't change anything about me, helps me become more empathetic of people who are going through these situations or something like that. And Irina, I approve of having the consistent income, or I approve of having the higher paying clients. And I don't know, what would you say? What do you think you would fill that statement with that's been hard to allow or accept or maintain in yourself?
Well, this is more, I mean, I know this thought process, working with the beliefs, but it's more like taking the action, because the new me would take totally different action than the me right now. Do you do the actions, the new actions, or do you, it's hard to say, like when does it start that you take the different actions?
Right away. I'll give you my personal example. It's freaking scary. It's really scary. Yeah. But right away. Bye, Lewis. Take care. I haven't read, but I think you have to go.
Thank you all.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Okay. So yeah, the new actions need to start right away, and they'll feel just backwards, right? We know this. But becoming a new version of you requires new action. So for me, when I listened in and was told, okay, take this next step and do this thing and contact these people and spend money on this and get this together. It felt like to me that I should do other things that would bring money in quicker. I shouldn't really listen to that voice, because that voice didn't really know what they were talking about. I knew it all, right? That's my old thing. I knew it all. But if I drop the I know it all and I trust and I listen when I ask for advice, then yeah, Irina, write down what the new you would be doing right now. If the new you was trusting and the new you knew she would be supported, then what risks would be worth taking? If you knew that even if the risks that you took didn't pay off exactly how you wanted them to the first time round, or the way you thought that they should, that it was never a failure, that you would always be farther ahead than if you hadn't taken the risk, then what risks would those be? So we're at the top of the hour.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
that helped. You're welcome. Please let me know if there's any other insight that you want me to include in the book around this topic today, and maybe more of my process. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'll let you
Well,
know
I
if
think,
I think of something. It just sounds really like a really nice, it's nice steps, they're clear and look really workable. And yeah, That's great.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah. You know what? Oh, one thing though, like actually, in your email, you're talking about, yeah, just like causing it to happen, causing things to happen and not being if you're not causing it, yeah, it's sort of victim versus cause. I think that would be really helpful to, I still find myself, okay, did I, how did I end up here, right? How did that, how could I have done something different to change some, I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
So you'd like to learn more about how to, like, the cause and effect of creation or lack?
Being feeling so you have you're not at the receiving end of things coming at you. You're causing things to happen. There's
Mhm.
more of a feeling of that
Okay. So
without
like,
controlling everything, without they're sort of different, right? I guess.
uh-huh.
I can't remember what it was. What is it in your email that you said that it just kind of jumped out at me? Where are you? I think it was an email from yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was about oh, well, I sent out the stress less test, and I actually have a document if anyone on this call or watching on Facebook would like that. It's the 3 stages I outlined in my stressful experience, and then stress management solutions that are corresponding to each stage that you can take right now. I haven't, unless you signed up for that, I haven't sent it out to you. So if you want access to that, let me know. But the email, yeah, I forget what I included in my recent email. Could have been this morning.
I can read it. I think it's from yesterday. It says, I've got a question for you. Are you a victim of circumstance and external conditions, or are you an active participant in the creation of your reality? Whoever you decide to be will impact the results you get. And I thought that yeah, I like that. That was cool. Resonated. It's like, keep that in mind.
Mhm. Thanks for the feedback.
You're
Mike
welcome.
or Michael, either of you want to chime in before we wrap up the call today?
I would say, Amy, you've just really helped put a lot of things into perspective for people. I was messaging Lewis privately because I too have just come off being on the cast, and I was encouraging him. I said, become a gracious receiver. When people want to help you, become a gracious receiver. And I said, I had to learn how to receive from people when I was in my place of injury. And I wanted to be independent, but we're called to be not dependent on people, but interdependent, I would say.
Mhm.
And the more we become interdependent, then we can receive and give freely. And it becomes less awkward. I mean, I've just done a GoFundMe for a good friend of mine who went through prostate cancer treatment recently. And this man is the first one to give to everyone else for everything. And I said to him, friend, you've been in my life for 30 years. Can we do a GoFundMe for you? Not because you need the money, but as a way to give back thanks for all the things you have given for others. Can you receive this as a gift?
Yeah.
He didn't know what to think. And when we raised $50,000, it was the greatest joy of my heart, because he's been a dad to me. To give back and to give people opportunity to give back. He was floored by the generosity of people.
Yeah, so cool.
And money is still coming in. And now people are saying, what can we do next? Can we get him a new car? Because his car is dying on him. Like, can we do something for him?
Wow, so
Because
cool. Yeah,
there's a process, or a giving back that comes. We sow and we reap. We sow and we reap in life. And this was the greatest joy of my heart, to be able to raise this money for my friend.
Yeah, Mike, it's what comes up for me is that the difference though, the undertone behind the sowing is like we
Yeah.
sow because we know we'll reap, but we don't sow so that we'll reap. Like we have the intention to, but then we also don't have control over some things. We don't have control over the how or the the weather or the timing, but we know that it's a natural law.
The harvest comes.
Mhm,
As long as the earth will remain, seed time and harvest will remain.
mhm.
And we don't know when we'll reap, but we know that if we don't give up, we will reap.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we keep on making deposits in people.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, like I was learning to receive in my season. I didn't want to have people give me money. I didn't feel comfortable. And I just heard this small voice in my heart. We just receive. People want to give back to you, Mike. Just receive it as a gift. Okay, I'll receive it as a gift. They know that you can't work right now. They want to help you get through your season.
So good. Yeah, the joy that comes from giving and the joy that comes from receiving can be ours when we allow it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have to allow it.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
if we're always giving and we're used to being the one who helps everyone, when we need help, we need to be able to receive that ourselves.
Exactly.
It's a pride of opinion. I can't receive that. I can't receive that. I'm not deserving. We receive it in the attitude it's given.
Yeah. Thanks so much for chiming in. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining and sharing your opinions and your insights and asking your questions. This time together every week has been so deeply valuable for me. It brings me so much energy and joy. And if you have questions, please share them on the Facebook group or email me privately. This book is being compiled and put together as we speak, and it's been really fun for me. And I really value you in my life and you as a part of this creation process. So thanks so much, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
next week. Thanks, Irene.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. See
Bye.
you.
Bye.